Hey, this is Scott, and today we're talking all about these guys. So, disclaimer before I start this video, the test clips in this video are not meant to be overly beautiful or a great story or anything like that. They're just meant to show the different movements and the different feels of these stabilizers with a little bit of, motivated movement instead of just circling around some trees or something like that. So the actress really was just a friend of a friend who was free that day and volunteered to be part of the video. Didn't have a lot of time, it was the middle of the day, so the lighting is terrible, the location is really not that great, the acting didn't have time to really prepare or retake for acting purposes. Really just focus on the movement. 2, this is not an exhaustive or overly extensive test. There are obviously a number of different factors that could play into this, what lens you use, what camera you use, how big it is, how heavy it is, and just a huge list of things that I can't realistically test or compare. This is just meant to give you a base idea for people who maybe have never had a chance to work with any of these stabilizers before. Finally, I am not that good with a Glidecam. I'm pretty terrible, in fact. I mean, I have used it a lot and I have got some shots that I've been able to use, but I'm by no means a practiced or trained or well-studied Glidecam operator. I can make a list of excuses, which to a certain point some of them are true for the reason why my Glidecam footage didn't come out as good as I would have hoped it did, but I wanted to leave it in there just as it was because I think that that's one aspect of choosing one of these stabilizers, is the fact that using a Glidecam is something that takes a lot more patience and a lot more practice. I mean, people practice for years and years to become professional stable Glidecam operators, and obviously if you're one of them, you're probably not watching this video. So I think for the target audience here, this is going to be people, again, who don't have that much hands-on experience with these different stabilizers. And for them, I think the fact that the learning curve on a Glidecam is going to be really steep, and that's definitely going to be something that I think they should be aware of when they're looking at these in terms of a comparison. So, for the test scene, like I said, this is not meant to be anything special, but I wanted to include a story that could maybe show you a few different types of movements. That way maybe each of these might have a chance to shine and show where they may work best, because these are going to apply for, I think, different types of movement, different types of energy. So I have a scene with walking, with running, spinning around a subject, tilting down, tilting up, and moving backwards. So I think that is kind of a decent cross-section of some of the movements that you might typically be doing with one of these stabilizers. Just for fun, I put it to some music, so let's take a look at that. One of those clips, again, I filmed it with each of these, so we'll take a look at just one from start to finish, and then we'll go back and look at each of them and talk about how my experience was filming with each of these stabilizers, and also what I thought of the actual footage that I got from it. Starting off with the SteadyCross, to be completely honest with you, I think this was probably one of my favorite overall stabilizers to use from this review. It took the longest to get balanced and set up, to be honest with you. It's a little finicky in getting that balance just right, but it can go from that really smooth, kind of natural looking footage to something that has a little bit more of a rough feel to it, like this, that can create some emotion, I feel, more than something like a electronic gimbal can. Because of the gravity and your control-based design, there's no motors taking control of it. It can show some of your imperfections a little bit more. It can show imperfections from wind a little bit more. So I think that maybe, yes, it's going to take more takes to get the shot that you want with it, but even that considered, I do feel like you had a good amount of control over it. And it was very easy to use, very natural to use. So it's not going to be perfect, because if you're not perfect, it's going to show up, but it was still very easy to use, very pleasant to use, and again, I felt like it was a really nice level of control and a nice balance between the very smooth footage and a little bit more of a rough footage that kind of can evoke some emotion. I say rough, but rough within control. Next up was the Glidecam, and I'm not really going to say much about this because I already said so much, but yeah, I felt like this could have been better, but generally speaking, Glidecam footage is very nice and smooth. It looks, I think, pretty great when you do it well. It has a very organic feel to it, and again, even the imperfections, like it's getting off balance or a little bit of an angle, it feels natural. It's less distracting than, you know, some small jitters or imperfections from electronics. But yeah, that's pretty much all I'm really going to say because I did already say so much about it. So when you're watching the Moza Air 2, the walking scene especially, I feel like it looks like I'm walking slower, but I'm really not. But it's just so perfectly smooth. I mean, you can still see some little micro jitters from my heavy steps sometimes, but it's just, it feels a little bit slower because everything is so just locked in kind of in. When you're running here, you can see some of that little bounce or the little imperfections from, you know, running. Obviously, I'm not the smoothest runner in the world. But for other shots, you know, I think that it can do a really good job. And if you want that really slow walking type of movement where, you know, maybe the movement isn't the main focus of your shot, it's supposed to be maybe somebody talking or something that's less distracting, something that feels a little bit smoother, almost like a dolly, then this could do a really great job. And, you know, besides the balance, you know, you got to learn how to balance the gimbal, but otherwise it is very easy to use, and especially the Moza Air 2, you can take control of a lot of settings right from the handle, and I really liked that. It came in handy here going from one scene to the next where I wanted more reactive movement or less reactive movement. I could switch those settings very, very quickly, and it was very easy to use. I needed less takes overall compared to the Glidecam and the SteadyCross. After that, I used the HaloRig, and this of course also took less takes because it's completely in your control. There's nothing that you have to factor in terms of wind affecting your footage or anything like that. If you move the way you want to move, it's going to do the job, and it does have that kind of very rough handheld feel to it, but I think, you know, it feels like an action movie sort of, and you know, you don't want always these perfectly smooth shots, and in that case, I think that the HaloRig makes it very comfortable to carry a camera, makes it very easy to take control of it without looking too imperfect. It has that rough action look to it, but it doesn't look distracting, I don't think. Again, if that's the mood that you're going for. Something like the keys dropping, honestly, I didn't even see that much of a difference between this and the gimbal, so for some of those movements, I see no reason to take the time to set up a gimbal where you could just take 2 seconds and use something like the HaloRig. Finally, I threw in a handheld scene, and well, it does have a similar look to the HaloRig because obviously this is still handheld, and that was too. I think that there are a lot more little shakes in here, and again, I'm using IS in this clip, and so that's going to make those imperfections a little bit better than if I didn't have that, but still there's a lot of distracting shakiness going on here, especially in the walking and running scenes. I felt like that was just a little bit too much. Some of the smaller little clips here and there I might not mind just going straight handheld, but for actual movement, walking, running, it was just too distracting, and I felt like the HaloRig really helped to smooth that out and still give the same feel, but just not be distracting and not feel unprofessional. If you're going for something really, really rough, then maybe this could be okay, but I think for most cases this is just a little bit too much, even with IS in the lens. So like I said, this is not an exclusive or perfect test. I'm by no means like a super seasoned pro at any of these, but again, I wanted to target this video for people who maybe don't have the chance to get their hands on all of these, and they're wondering maybe for the type of videos that they're making, which might work best for them, which might be easiest, which might be fastest, which might be the smoothest. There's a number of different factors that I think people could be looking for, and hopefully this could give you some information that will help you in making your choice. If you do have any further questions or comments though, be sure to leave those down below and I will do my best to get back to you. If you like this video or found it helpful, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe to see more in the future, and hit that little bell icon to make sure that you get notifications when new content is updated. As always, thank you for watching.